Hello! Today I'm going to be taking a look at this lovely box of Holbein artist gouache. This is the Irodori series and I have autumn here. So previously I have reviewed the summer gouache set, which is a lovely bright one with lots of summery colours. This one also has the white and the black. So the autumn set, by contrast, is quite a lot more muted. And if I just have a quick open, we can see those gorgeous tubes, and those look very much more like autumnal colours, don't they? I also have winter and spring to review, and I think I'm going to possibly film these back to back or very soon after one another, because I know that it is spring in the northern hemisphere at the moment, but it is autumn here in Australia, and I thought it would just make the most sense to go in logical season order. So summer, autumn, winter, spring is how I'm going to do it. So don't forget to subscribe if you'd like to see the other two sets, and then I will probably do one big video with all four sets together so we can just see how they all look side by side. But for today I'm going to focus on autumn, and I've already got my sketchbook ruled up so I can get straight into the swatching, because I am dying to see what these colours are like. All I have done is looked at the outsides of the tubes. I really don't know what any of these colours are going to be like. And let me grab my sketchbook. I'm using this little one. I'm getting close to finishing, so I'm probably going to do all of my gouache paintings in here. Just to remind you, that's what the summer set looks like, and you can see the black and the white here. I was able to get some bright paintings out of here. So next up is autumn. Let me flick to the page that I have all prepared. There we go, I've zoomed out a bit so we can see that better, and I've written in all the names of the paints along with the pigment numbers on each tube. So as you can see, quite a lot of them have mixed pigments, and there are two tubes with single pigments. One is the safflower red and also this antique rich gold, which is a metallic, I'm pretty sure, so I'm really curious to see that one. This one has indigo, which I'm very excited about as well, because I always love an indigo. Let's get into the swatching. First up we have safflower red, a lovely deep red, and that PR170 is a naphthol red. Apparently it has reasonable light fastness according to what I could find. And going in with the orange, this is a mix of yellow iron oxide with another type of naphthol red. Lately I keep seeing PR9, and apparently it's quite a fugitive pigment, so I need to do some more research on that, I think. But going on to gardenia yellow, it's a lovely warm yellow mixed in with two pigments there, and the Amur cork yellow has a slightly greenish tint thanks to that PG17, which is a yellow-green pigment, apparently also quite fugitive. Amber's got a couple of yellow pigments as well. It's pretty opaque and reminds me quite a lot of a bright yellow ochre. On to bark brown. This one had three pigments in there: yellow, red iron oxide and a black. It's quite a reddish brown thanks to that iron oxide. Smoked bamboo, on the other hand, was much cooler, even though it also has the PR101 iron oxide, but that pigment can actually be quite different and vary from a deeper brown to a redder brown. It's an interesting one, probably has a lot of black in it too. The leek green I think is really lovely, and that's a mix of three pigments. And then we have this pine tree green, and next to it the elm green. If you see, with these two greens they have exactly the same pigments in them, but they do look very different when painted out here. But later in the video you will see some similar properties between them when I get painting. This indigo was definitely not indigo. I think it looks much more like Indian Throne Blue, but it is still really pretty and a lovely deep one. It mixed well with that smoked bamboo. And last up is this beautiful antique rich gold, so sparkly metallic. I love this very much, it's gorgeous. PW20 is silver mica. So here we have a very autumnal palette of colours. That elm green is so opaque, and these two browns have quite a bit of granulation by the looks of things. If I just hold them up, you can see that going on there. I guess now I need to do some artworks, and I will come up with a few ideas. I have one idea already, so I'll start with that, and then I will see what else I end up with. I am going to possibly use some white gouache as well. I've just got a tube of this lying around, so if I need it I will put it to the side, but otherwise I'm just going to stick with this autumnal palette. See, you really do need white when it comes to gouache, I think, so even if you just buy a single tube of white gouache and no other tubes of any other colour, this stuff comes in handy for all sorts of things like highlights and mixing in with watercolours even, so I do recommend getting yourself a white gouache. Let's get painting! For my first artwork, I found a cute picture of a squirrel, and for some reason I always associate squirrels with autumn, even though we do not have them at all in Australia, so that would explain why my drawing of it is pretty terrible. It took me quite a while to get its face right. It looks terrifying at the moment though. I got there kind of. The whole picture is a bit funny looking. And I also think I was having one of those days where I just can't draw very well. Do you get those? Some days you can draw amazingly everything, and then other days it's just impossible. Yeah, it was one of those days. But I got something. It's maybe not quite a squirrel, but it's a squirrel-like creature, and its ears are really long. It did look that long in the photo, but for some reason on my painting it just looks really crazy. Anyway, getting in with this gouache, the amber, bark brown and smoked bamboo were used on the squirrel, if I am not mistaken, and I also used the orange quite a bit just to get a redder fur colour in some areas. I used the indigo for its little eyes, and then I decided I was going to paint in a background quickly with the 3 greens that I've got there, so the pine tree, the elm and the leek green. I just randomly blobbed the paint on, I wasn't too fussed. I'm working out of my wet palette here, and I was adding a fair bit of water to make the gouache really run. I wasn't trying to get an opaque background, I wanted that to be fairly light and transparent, because then I can work up the layers on the squirrel, which is the focal point of it. I splashed a bit of extra paint around just to make it look more interesting, and then I painted in the log it was sitting on. I didn't really use the reference photo colours, I just decided to paint in a random assortment of different colours so that I could use pretty much all of the colours in this set. And that indigo blue is actually quite nice on the log, and I liked how it mixed in with the browns. So I'm going back over the squirrel with a more opaque layer of paint, adding in some deeper colours and just trying to get some more definition into its fur. I don't mind how it turned out. It's a little funny looking, but I do like how all of the colours work together in this set. I did use a little bit of white as well, because it's very difficult not having a white in the set. I always like to add highlights. I also used the antique rich gold to highlight some of it as well and give it a metallic sheen. First picture done, he's kinda cute. Now I've flipped over the page and I taped off this side so that I could add a lot of paint on here. You may see on my wet palette that the paint is looking really watery, and that's because I actually left it for a few days over the weekend and didn't do any painting. When I opened the box up, even though I hadn't added much water to the sponge, it was absolutely dripping wet, and so all of the paints are just saturated. What a mess, but they layered well in their wet state. And for this picture, I'm actually revisiting a painting I did last year from an autumnal photo that I took, which I'd done in watercolour and I wasn't super happy with because the colours are too translucent. So I decided to try again using these more opaque gouache paints, and they actually did pretty well. You could see that red is layering over the top of the green quite nicely without too much of the green showing through. And then I was mixing in a few other colours. It kind of ran everywhere because there was so much water in the paint, but I was just trying to get some of the lights shining through. I'm pretty sure they're Japanese maples that were leaning out over the lake, and of course the lake was looking quite green from the angle I was at, so I just like the warmth in this picture and it feels so autumnal to me, being that it was autumn when I took the photo, but it's a little abstract and I like how it turned out. And I'll also point out that the pine tree green and the elm green, which are the two that had identical pigments, once the water had kind of dispersed them, the pigments actually split apart and you could see that they were exactly the same colours. It was really odd and fascinating to see how pigments when mixed together can create different colours, but when they split apart you can see them for what they are, which is exactly the same. I just thought that was really interesting, and I'm using some of the brown just to add in some branches here. It's looking a little messy, but once I added on some of that antique gold over the top as autumnal highlights, I think it actually pulled the whole piece together quite well, and I do like the lovely colours that were in this painting. It was also highly satisfying peeling off the tape at the end of this. If you look closely, you'll see some white spots on the picture. You will see why very soon. So I was a bit grumpy with the paint at this time because it had run so much in the wet palette. I just decided to paint the rest of it all over this page and see what I could come up with some sort of abstract background. There was no planning here whatsoever. I was just throwing the paint on to take it all out of the wet palette so it didn't get wasted. I wasn't even cleaning the brush, I was just picking up paint and chucking it on, and if it mixed together, then so be it. Most of it actually came out quite well. There are only a few muddy spots in it. I think on this page it really does showcase how opaque the gouache actually is. It doesn't really look that opaque when I paint it out in a swatch, but when I was actually using it properly, like this, it really just layers on top of each other so well and you can see the colours very easily. So it was just some kind of random forest thing? I don't know. Tell me what you see in this. I don't really know what I see. I was thinking of a frustration forest, and then I splattered the leftover white gouache over the top of it, which is how it got onto the left-hand painting as well. I actually don't mind it, it just gives it a little more life and was completely non-deliberate. And then I just kind of smudged out the paint a bit to give it a more interesting effect. It turned out okay actually. And the last paint left in the wet palette was the antique rich gold, so that went over the top of everything and gives it a nice metallic sheen. I liked it so much I added some more straight from the tube. I felt like the page needed something else, so I decided to cut some stickers out, and this is from the Botanic Sticker Anthology. It's the first sticker I've pulled out of it. Hooray! So now I have 2 of the anthologies that I've taken stickers out of, and I fussy cut around the edges of it because I didn't want to have the edges of that sticker in there. I just wanted the mushrooms on the piece of wood. It's a strange sticker, but for some reason that's the one that took my fancy, so that's the one I went with. Mushrooms in the Frustration Forest. I also added a couple of other ones, including one from the Upcrate box that I just reviewed. I like how this crazy art turned out. And I'm finished for the day. I've got 3 paintings done, I've used all of the colours, and I'll just quickly recap what I have painted. This lovely squirrel with really long ears, and then I have this page spread, which after I've left it for a while, it is growing on me. I like the colours, especially the 2 pictures together. I don't know what this is meant to be, I just stuck some stickers on, and here's my little autumn painting. So really I had, I think, a better time using the set that was for summer. That's because it also had the black and the white gouache, but this is a nice set on its own as well. It is just missing that white, and I think if you're going to buy this set individually, I would highly recommend getting a white gouache as well. I'm pretty sure these are designed so that you have to buy all 4 sets to get all the colours, which is what I ended up doing. And if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up. It really helps out my channel and I really appreciate appreciate it. Also leave a comment down below, what do you think of the set and how does it compare to the summer set if you have seen that video as well. So I'll put all the links and everything in the description below so you can check these out for yourself. They're not so easy to come by, but hopefully there will be a few places where these are available. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you all again really soon in my next video. Have a wonderful day, and I'll swatch you later. Bye!